Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. Goodness me, it's been a very long time. I'm very sorry. Let me just wipe the dust off my microphone. There we go. All good. We've got so much to talk about today. But before we get into the old podcast, let's see who we've got on the show today. We welcome back our friend Curtis. How are you doing?
Groovy like a drive-in movie, my friend. Happy to be here. Happy to be with you, lovely chaps, tonight to talk about a fantastic result.
Indeed. We've got, as I say, a lot to talk about, so we'll get through it as quickly as we can. We welcome back to the podcast Adam. Adam, my friend, it's been a while. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, really good, thank you. I'm glad to be on and having a chat again.
Nice one. And we also welcome for the first time on the Albion Obsessed podcast, it's Mr. Tom Phillips. Tom, how are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Looking forward to making the debut.
Indeed. So, Tom, I don't know if you're aware, but when we have a new guest on, we like to ask them 3 questions, don't we, Curtis? So I will kick off with the first question. What is your favourite Albion shirt of all time?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to go retro on this, and I'm going to pick one just because the reason for it was that it was done on a bit of a mistranslation here, but it's the Argentina skint shirt.
I love that one.
Now, for all of you that don't know about this, when Aria were our kit manufacturers, we told them blue and white, please. But they misinterpreted that, and somehow we got, rather than our traditional dark blue and white, if you will, we got the Argentina style blue and white. And for that reason, that's probably one of my favourite, if not the favourite Albion shirt.
A very, very happy mistake. It is one of my all-time favourites as well. Curtis, I'll pass over to you for the next question, my friend.
The second question is, what is your PIN code? No, I joke. The second question would be, what is the first Albion game that you remember seeing?
Oh, the first Albion game I actually remember seeing was when Dougie Freedman scored the first goal in the Millennium. That one. Sorry, not Dougie Freeman. Jeez, Darren Freeman. God, there we are. There's a foraging slip there, right there. Jesus, what is that all about? That's a shock of a debut, lads. That's me subbed off after 5 minutes. Yeah, when old Freeman scores the first goal in the Millennium, that's one of the first games I actually remember. At the Withdean. My dad told me he once took me to the Goldstone, but I don't have any memory of that. I was about 3 at that time. So
you were too bloody drunk, mate.
well, that pub crawl on Old Shoreham Road, yeah, it's a heavy one, that's for sure.
And the next and the last question, Tom, for you is: who is your favourite Albion player of all time up until this moment?
Up until this moment, I think my favourite Albion player has to be Pascal Gross. I love him. I think he's been such a huge, fantastic servant for us as a club. Scored the first goal in the Premier League for us. And that inevitably gave us our first win in the Premier League against West Brom, which was fantastic. Versatile. He's a leader on and off the pitch. He sets the standard. One of the most creative players outside of the traditional top 4 in the midfield. So, I mean, there's so many positives that you just got to love for Pascal Gross. And I know that there was a time where people were a bit sceptical in a certain point under Potter, but for me, he was always the first man on the team sheet every single week. And what he's done for us is probably the reason why we're all sitting down here and about to talk about what's happened in recent weeks as well.
Yeah, exactly that. And Pascal Gross, for those who aren't aware of his time in Dortmund so far, he got 4 assists the other day. So, Pascal doing Pascal things. We love it.
Love it.
So that's Tom as an Albion fan that paints a lovely picture as what Tom has been through up until this point. So let's just get straight into talking about what we need to talk about, I guess. So first of all, guys, we're going to talk about Southampton away. And Curtis, beating teams at the bottom hasn't been something that Brighton have been able to do for quite some time. We did it pretty convincingly on the South Coast, didn't we?
Yes, we did. I must admit, going into it, I was just like, pessimistic, quite worried about these games. It seems to be a banana skin for us, these sorts of games. So it was worrying. But as soon as the lads got onto the field, I could just feel You just feel the energy, the togetherness. But I didn't think we would be, as good as we were, admittedly. But it just goes to show you that sometimes you need like one of those sort of big humbling performances, like the Nottingham game, to really sort of set things into perspective. And I think that's what that did for us. And we've looked much better for it. So thanks, Nottingham.
Exactly that. Yeah. Thanks, Forest, but just don't repeat it in the FA Cup, please, for the love of God. Adam, there were 4 different goal scorers on the day against Southampton: João Pedro, Jorginho Rutter, Karo Matoma, and Jack Hinshelwood, who we're going to talk about a lot later in the podcast as well. But good to see goals being shared around everybody and everyone sort of, putting their work in to get us over the line against Southampton.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I mean, I think that sort of front four are starting to come into a nice sort of run of form, really. Matoma obviously getting back on the scoring, and Reuter's obviously proven an integral part of that front four at the minute. Either chipping in with goals and assists, and it was nice to see Pedro get back on the score sheet as well. But I think Minte should have really got on there as well, really, and could have had all 4 of that front four really on the score sheet, but unfortunately just couldn't quite finish off his chances on the day.
Yeah, exactly that. He had a glorious chance to just put it past Ramsdale, and I think with Jan Kubrick, he overthinks things sometimes. And if he takes it in his stride, like today, beautiful finish today, he just doesn't get in his head. Tom, what do you think is the difference? Because we like being attacked, we like soaking up the pressure, and we seem to do well against teams that do attack us. Southampton, I mean, they're probably the worst Premier League team I've ever seen, and I will be shocked if they don't break Derby's record. But what's the difference of having that confidence to go out and play our game rather than just inviting Southampton onto us?
I think it was a mixture of, as we mentioned, the kick up the backside that we had with Forest, the aftermath of the back-to-back wins against Chelsea. It's the sense of confidence and understanding that they've got in Hertzler's tactics. In the Athletic, Andy Naylor talked about how after the Forest match, Hertzler literally just set alight all the tactics from the Forest match and started again, and the team were just in such unison about it all. You look in the pre-season matches, pre-season videos on YouTube, and Hertzler was really big. It gave a big passionate speech about togetherness and belief in one another. And I think that that sort of like message that he's always sent throughout the season has been demonstrated in these matches, because the tactics were spot on in each and every one of them, and we're getting those results, and we're taking those chances when we see it happening and exploiting the loopholes and the errors in the other teams tactically, and exploiting that and finishing off games off relatively early. And Southampton just, again, they seem to be trying, but they just don't seem to have an answer. And you're seeing the gap widening now from the promoted teams to everyone else in the Premier League, and it's getting bigger and bigger each and every season. And it'd be quite surprising to see what happens in the next maybe 2 or 3 seasons, because something needs to change there. But at the moment, we're not seeing that. So, but yeah, it's the togetherness and the belief that is definitely the nucleus of it all.
Yeah, I think you're right as well. I think we've seen teams come up, even performing well for maybe 1 or 2 seasons, like Huddersfield, like Sheffield United, staying in the league, and then there's just a huge drop off. So yeah, that's something to be said for the gap, as you say. Curtis, I mean, it's been a really good response from the Forest game, and the thing for me was not running for each other, not working hard, and just seeing heads drop really, really quickly. And as you mentioned, Tom, the speech about togetherness from Hertzler, but also the talk of this is why we work hard and this is why we run into the ground for each other, because we get these results. And we've done that against Bournemouth as well. We had to suffer. We really suffered it in moments that game, but we come through it. And it took them an absolute worldy goal to get past us. Our defence has been excellent. JP Van Hecker and Adam Webster. who would have thought Adam Webster coming in and being Webdini again? I'd love to see it. So it's the basics, isn't it, Curtis, of just running for each other and working hard.
Yeah, I mean, it might sound a bit cliche, the whole togetherness thing, and he really likes to talk about it, but it is just so integral to a really good football team. The cohesion amongst everyone, make sure everyone understands each other, make sure everyone understands the style of play, where they need to be, what they need to be doing. Because you see it with these disjointed teams that they can't string stuff together, and at the moment we just seem to be just gelling. We seem to get it, and it's fully on display for everyone, and it's been really great.
Exactly that. And someone that's been struggling a little bit with injury and coming off the bench of late is Danny Welbeck, Adam. But he's been doing really well in that job, and obviously we'll talk about him a little bit more later on, his effect in the Newcastle game. But getting that winner against Bournemouth, how long did it take for that ball to roll into the back of the net? It was just an absolute eternity. But yeah, what do you put down to Welbeck's fine form this season? Do you think he's really enjoying life under Hertzler? Adam? Sorry.
Yeah, no, he's he just seems to be getting better with age, doesn't he? He just doesn't seem to be slowing down like some players do as they get into their sort of, well, what is he now, 33 or something like that? So he sort of seems to just be getting better and doing that job off the bench of if he's not starting, he comes off the bench and he within 2 touches he stuck it in the back of the net and got you the 3 points, which is exactly the sort of impact we need him to make, really. But yeah, he's just a fantastic all-round striker for us, and a really good option to rotate in with Pedro at the minute. They're both scoring goals and getting involved, and it's exactly a nice sort of headache for Hertzler to have.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm going to come to all of you and ask what you think our chances are of getting Europe this season. I think it's wide open. I think there's only 6 points that separate 10th and 3rd. So your guess is as good as ours as to who is going to clinch the Champions League spots, the Europa League spots. Obviously, it comes down to FA Cup winner as well. Who knows? Preston could even go on a crazy cup run and win the FA Cup and be in Europe next year. Tom, what do you think our European chances are looking like? We're definitely in the mix, despite what maybe a lot of fans, including me, have said.
Look, it's safe to say this season's been an absolute roller coaster, hasn't it? There's never been one point where we've been steady eddies and thinking yes, Europe consistently, or no, we're out of it completely. Last season, we knew we were going to be in for a tough tackle to actually get top 8, top 7 again. That was a tall order. It just wasn't in our DNA. This year, however, it's like you say, it's wide open at the moment. We've got a lot of teams in the top 4, top 6 that are not performing well. Aston Villa are getting caught out at the moment with the fixture demand, despite the fact that they've invested heavily in both transfer windows. Forest are all suddenly in the conversation. Bournemouth are in the conversation, which I think if someone said that at the start of the season, you would envision them in a straitjacket. It's been an absolute roller coaster ride in the Premier League and incredibly exciting. And like you're saying, there's 4 points separating us with Man City in 4th. Like all of a sudden, that you can be a dream if you like, but 4 points is you could picture 4 points that we've dropped this season already, and I think that just shows again how end to end the Premier League season has been, and that's why I'm enjoying this season more than ever, because it's end to end, it's emotional, and you're not going to go in and expect to win. There's been games where we've kind of like, we should hang ourselves in shame, and then there's ones that we could be dead proud of our club. So I really do fancy our chances here, and with us still in the FA Cup, there is still that possibility. I'm not saying that we've got it in the bag, but we've got 2 great opportunities here to really make an impact and get back into Europe again.
Yeah, I don't want to keep beating the drum of the Forest game, but Curtis, do you think that we might look back at the end of this season and look at that as a huge blessing in disguise. And I think it's very much shown the two ends of the scale in terms of standards of, as I said, running for each other, and then the other end of losing 7-0. Do you think we'll look back at it and say that's what really put this season back on track, weirdly enough?
I think we're looking back on it now and saying that. I think we're seeing a much more noticeable Hertzler team now than we were beforehand. I feel like he definitely knows where he wants to be playing people, in what positions and certain formations and whatnot. It's just a lot more clearer about just his intentions. Like I said, it was only a few games ago, but I just think we seem completely different mentally since that point. And I would be surprised to see us lose another game by that sort of margin this season. And I know every season we tend to get one of these freak results like Everton and Luton. Remember that one? I just think, it was a blessing in disguise. It really, really was.
Yeah, definitely. Just want to take this moment to say hello to the live chat. We can see Michael in there. Good evening to you. Joanna, hello. Dora on Tour, who is a Nottingham Forest YouTuber, says, if we beat Ipswich, you lot want revenge, right? Yes, we do. Come to our place at your peril. I'm not that confident. Who have we got as well? Doom saying, Welbeck again, LA. Yeah, what a game. Yeah, I guess we'll just get straight into the Newcastle game. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're fresh on the back of. I mean, normally I'd run through the starting lineup, but I haven't got it in front of me. Hold on. There it is. I'm so prepared. This is why Tom is the host normally, not me. Okay, so we had Bart Verbruggen, Tarek Lamptey, Jan-Paul van Hecker, Webster, Estupinian, Baliba, Hinshelwood as the midfield pairing, Yankuba, Minter, Rutter, Mitoma as the forward three, with João Pedro leading the line. After Danny Welbeck's goal against Bournemouth, Adam, was you maybe surprised to not see him in the starting lineup, or do you think we still need to manage his minutes a bit?
Yeah, I think it's one of those, isn't it, where you still need to manage the minutes, and it's difficult because obviously Pedro got on the score sheet as well, so it would have been, I think, a bit harsh to obviously drop him to the bench given how well he's done the past couple of games. So I think it's, as I say, a nice headache to have. But I think if Pedro keeps playing like he is, I guess it's for Welbeck, it's a case of sort of waiting and biding his time and just coming off the bench and making the impacts that he is, because you've got 2 winners in a week there, booked us a place in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and got us another 3 points in the Premier League and keeping that European dream alive for us.
Yeah, exactly that, Tom. A lot of people define João Pedro by his haircut, and I'm quite enjoying dreadlocks João Pedro. I think he's doing very well in the dreads. Maybe someone that we gloss over a little bit, and I think a lot of people got frustrated with him in our dip in form when he was doing the waving arms at the fans, but he's really coming into form again, isn't he? And proving that he can be the difference maker.
Absolutely. And look, you saw it last season with him. He was a big game player for us. He wasn't starting in the Premier League, but he was starting in Europa League matches, and you just watched what he was able to do. He was thrown in the deep end really when he's been spending a couple of seasons in the Championship with Watford. But De Zerbi trusted him and just be like, "Mate, you're leading us in Europa League, boy. So go ahead and do it." Yeah, look, and it has been frustrating at times. He loves to have that relation and show that emotion with the fans and trying to orchestrate that, encouraging us to build up a bit of an atmosphere. At the same time, it's kind of like, well, hang on a sec, mate, like you seem to have dipped in form here, we'll respond when you respond, kind of thing. So and that's just the nature of football, really. We just really need to just let these boys play, and believe in them. And I think when you have a player like João Pedro, you can sit back and relax because his personality, his attitude is something that he relishes the big games. Some players just put their heads in the sand, but João Pedro is someone like, no, I'm embracing this. I'm going to do what I need to do. And as well as that, he's someone that contributes to the team. He's a team player. He's not selfish in some regards, in the fact that he only plays in a one-dimensional way where he only focuses on the goals and the assists, like any attacker would really, but he contributes in any way in those 4 positions that Hurtzler plays in the attack, and he contributes in any way he can. And I think that's why you saw today, and I know we'll get onto that shortly, but how Welbeck celebrated was arm around the shoulder of João Pedro and just pointing to him, because, you know, he was the orchestrator in a lot of our attack. He was our focal point. And, you know, that I think that's just case in point of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of good things run through João Pedro, and when he's on form, things happen. So I think you're spot on with that assessment. Curtis, the game panned out in a weird way in the first half. Newcastle maybe had the lion's share of the chances, and up until the penalty. What did you make of the penalty? It's a bit clumsy from Yankuba, but I don't think you can take away his desire to come back and defend. I think he's been excellent in that regard. But yeah, a bit clumsy. Did you think it was a penalty?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was a bit silly from him, but it was just, I think, it was one of those heat of the moment type of things. It's a big occasion. It's his old club. Lots of mitigating factors in there, and yeah, it was just one of those things. But as you said, for him to show that resolve to come back from that and score a great goal, I think that shows a lot about his character and his position within the team.
Yeah, exactly that. And I mean, Adam, it was Yankuba that responded with our goal. Took it beautifully well. Really lovely build up and a lovely ball through for him to run onto. Yeah, great goal from him, and no celebration, even though he's not played a game for Newcastle. But respected the fans. So yeah, what did you make of Yankuba's reaction to the penalty?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's sort of the perfect reaction in a way, isn't it? You know, you give away the penalty, you could see how devastated he was and knew he'd made a big error there. You know, sort of giving away the penalty and diving in to the tackle. But you know, he responded perfectly. He was, you know, again, looked very lively down that right hand side. You know, showing his pace, willing to track back. But yeah, it was a lovely finish and a great bit of link up between him and Pedro, and a lovely ball through from Pedro to set him on his way to score the goal. But you know, I think as soon as he was played in, you know, he knew he had the beating of all those defenders, because you were looking, you know, Shaw wasn't going to catch him, Trippier came across but was never going to catch him, and you know, Dan Burns never going to catch him either. He's just electric once he gets going. It was, you know, good to see him on the score sheet again. He's really starting to sort of come into his own and really show why we've invested the money into him.
Yeah, exactly that. I can't remember what game it was where he was omitted from the starting 11 because he turned up late. But a lot of people were a bit like confused as to why Yankuba hadn't started that game.
And the Nottingham game, Joe?
I think it was a home game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people, because I think he was coming into pretty good form before he was dropped, and then he was dropped, and then now he's having to refine that form again. It's been a crazy few months for Yankuba Minteh, Tom. What have you made of his introduction to the Premier League and into our side?
Yeah, just to the side note, it was the Everton match, by the way. I'm really enjoying Minteh. He's raw talent. He's young, and he's just someone that's really keen to just really showcase what he's all about. And when you saw him at the start of the season, you know, he was exciting. He contributed a lot. His dribbling skills are amazing. It's just that final product. And when you're 19 years old and you're thrown in the deep end in the Premier League, you've got to be good enough for that. But to just get that extra bit, that extra moment, rather than in like a training drill, it's a different ball game altogether, because everyone is so in sync in the Premier League that you've got to find that little margin there to just beat the man. And we've seen those times where he's been frustrating. I remember one where it was Leicester away, and Minteh scored a great goal, I believe, first time round, and then he had another opportunity and he decided to go for it himself when there were like 2 other options. And I think for that, you saw again Danny Welbeck just telling him, you had 2 better options here. Like, read the whole game, learn what you see, and then find the better position, find the better target. It's not just about finding the goal, it's about finding the player there as well. So I think his gameplay in the final third is a lot better, and he has had to adapt as well. There's a lot of different, there's definitely a massive change in the tactics that Hertz has played in comparison to the start of the season when Minter was playing week in, week out, and now he's playing in week in, week out. We've seen a different role altogether, and he's happy to boot balls up in the air in our own 18-yard box, which is also highly entertaining as well.
Yeah, but had that moment have led to a corner that resulted in a goal, I think there would have been a lot of question marks over what he done. But that was very amusing, I have to say. I mean, I'm just looking at the momentum graph on FOTMob, and I think it tells us exactly what we saw. The game was electric. I think it was probably one of the best FA Cup ties I've seen in a very long time. Curtis, did you ever sort of fear that we were going to sort of drop out of the game or drop our intensity at all? Or have you been sort of confidence boosted by what you've seen from this team with the last sort of 3-4 games?
I was initially worried about the 93rd minute goal that was ruled offside, obviously. But as soon as that went in, I from the outset, I was like, that looks offside to me. So I wasn't that worried. But I thought, oh God, like VAR might screw us here. But luckily enough, it was. I wasn't too worried, even after like the 2 red cards or what have you. I thought like we would just get a lot more compact, and I thought we just did really, really well, being a man down, and dealt with Newcastle's press really well. And I was just really pleased, really pleased with the performance.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the red cards. It looked like it was going to be maybe an easier task when Gordon decided to punch Jan-Paul Van Hecke in the side of the head. Adam, did you think at that time that it was sort of written in the stars that we go on to win that game, or did you still fear that Newcastle could pose a threat, even though Gordon decided to do GBH in front of everybody?
No, I did sort of feel a little bit more confident once he was sent off, because 10 men, it's just, and losing obviously a big player of theirs. Gordon is a massive part of what Newcastle have done this season. I know Isak gets a lot of the plaudits, but Gordon is one of those players who does make them tick as well. So to see him get sent off and then Isak then go down injured and Wilson coming on, it was sort of a lovely sort of 20-30 seconds there where the pair of them went off, and you thought, okay, that's 2 of their main attacking threats out. But then obviously that confidence was quickly sort of canned when Lamptey dived in. But it was just one of those really for Tariq. He's been excellent for the past sort of few weeks, really, especially with Estepinian out. He's done really well at that left back role, and just unfortunately just dived into one that he probably didn't really need to dive into. But I'm sure that again, he's still young, so it's one to another learning curve for him. But he's I did have that confidence, but it quickly dwindled within sort of 5 minutes of getting that confidence, and then I was back on the biting the old fingernails.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, you rightly mentioned how good Lamptey's been of late, and I definitely think he's working hard to earn a new contract, Tom. But that referee today was so card happy; it was just bound to happen that we would get a red card as well. So yeah, what did you make of both of the red cards?
Look, it's so hard when you go into a game like that. He was very end to end, and there was so many brilliant battles, I thought, not just in the midfield, but someone where you've got Tariq Lamptey having his hands full with Anthony Gordon and whoever else is there supporting him, and Sandro Tonali as well, such a technically gifted midfielder. And then you've got Bruno Guimaraes in the middle of the park again, trying to battle with Belieber, and then Hinshelwood, and then Van Hecke. That there was so much there that the referee had to do, and there was times where, I had to jump in here, and then all of a sudden that set the tone for the rest of the match. For me, Lamptey's second yellow, he really shouldn't have gone in there. He had the pace to really drop back and just try and track the man. I think that was just him just realised he just caught him. He just checkmated himself, really. He just let the ball roll past him, look up. There's a Newcastle player. He's got the ball. I'll lunge in. try and make a risk. And I think he probably forgot in his head that he's got a yellow card. Gordon's was just textbook, wasn't it? It was just a complete head loss. Similar to Cunha yesterday, when he should be on cloud 9, and all of a sudden he's just got himself in this mindset. Cunha committed like 5 different types of assault and red card offences. Gordon just, again, he had his head lost completely, and I actually thought he had the upper hand on our defence throughout that game. And when that happens, there you go. That he's kind of like, okay, momentum's with us. I do think that the red card helped us a little bit, but the advantage cemented for us the moment you saw Isak signal for the physio and him limping off. That was the game changer, because let's face it, we had no answer for him at all. He is world class. And I say that very, very lightly, in the same way that Tom says about Brighton legends on this podcast. Isak is world class, and Newcastle are very much enjoying him for all the right reasons. So, yeah, but going back to what you're saying, I think the only referee decision I think Taylor made was a bit harsh, was Gomez's yellow. I thought that was very harsh. It was just a little tug. It probably just needed a little bit of a warning. It wasn't a promising attack in the eyes of the laws of the game. So I felt that was just a bit it was a bit harsh for someone who's only literally played for the last, 10 minutes. So, I felt that was probably the only one where I thought, okay, Taylor, come on, mate. That was a bit silly. But yeah, very card happy. But I think the players set that tone and tried that and risked it anyway. And the ref had to intervene. He either had to manage it. Taylor doesn't really do that.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, you mentioned a guy that I want to talk about, and I laud about him because I'm an admirer of Inter Miami, and I watched a lot of him in the MLS last season. And when I got a message to say we were going to sign him, I was so excited because he's been fantastic, and I think he could possibly be, and I don't want to overhype him too much, but I really believe that he could be one of the best signings this football club will ever make. His tenacity, the way he drives the ball forward, vertical passes, always looking to start an attack, dogged in defending, he is so good. And we've done it
and
again.
I feel that his first goal he gets is going to be a bloody worldie. I can just see it, and it's going to be amazing.
I mean, the strike that he made in this game, and it was a great save from Dubravka. I'm not taking anything away from him, but had that have gone in, I think I probably would have been on the roof of my apartment blocks, because that was just a ridiculous shot. But it wasn't to be. He did try a few other sort of sighters that didn't quite hit the target. But yeah, he's a fantastic player that we should all look at and be promised. Get a little bit of promise that we can have a midfielder that can push us forward. I saw someone on Twitter liken him to Enoch Onwepu, which I think is quite accurate, to be honest. But yeah, the game went on, ebbs and flowed. We'll talk about the offside goal as well, Adam. I mean, as soon as I saw the replay, I thought, okay, if we got automated offside, surely this will be chalked off. Was you feeling similar?
Yeah, I mean, at first I was sort of like, oh no, we've blown it, right at the death, that's it. And then when you saw the replay, you were like, I think he's just off. And it was about as close as you're going to get to being on. I think he just luckily, he just lent a bit too early, lent himself forward, and that put him off. But it was, I did have like heart in mouth, and disappointment just went through when it hit the net. But luckily, VAR came to our rescue again. So it was one of those. I think it was just again one of those that just sort of maybe turned the tide back in our favour a bit. Just took a bit of the wind out of Newcastle's sail, and knew that we were going to go to extra time then, and you've then got 30 minutes to try and sort of win the cup tie and get yourself into there. And I thought Solly March did very well when he came on. I think there was a couple of occasions where he found some nice positions, and especially for the goal, picked up a nice position in midfield, and then picked a beautiful pass for Welbeck to finish. I know Welbeck's getting a lot of plaudits for the finish, but I thought Solly was really good there on, when he came on again, and it'll be good to get him back up to speed as well, because we've really missed his attributes as well and his versatility within this squad.
Yeah, 100%. There's always a player that can play any sort of flank anywhere really, right back, left midfield, even centrally. I think we could see maybe an adaptation of Solly's game to maybe push him a bit more central. If he loses that pace, he's definitely got the creativity and the vision to, as we saw with him finding Welbeck, finding him with a lovely through ball. Curtis, let's talk about the goal then. I mean, Danny Welbeck off the bench, delightful. What a chip. I thought it had gone over to begin with, but yeah, what a finish, and it's that man again.
Yeah, I was confused at first because I was watching it with my human eyes, and for some reason it didn't look like it went in the goal. I was just like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool, a goal," you know. But I went crazy. I went absolutely crazy. Yeah, it was fantastic. Like I agree with what Adam was saying about like we have to give plaudits to Solly for the assist. Really good stuff from him. But Welbeck, he's an anomaly. He really is. Get him on the plane. Thomas Tuchel. Get him on the plane. Like, I'm just so happy for him as well, you know. It feels like he has sort of had some issues with that injuries, and he stopped and started a bit and whatnot. So it's good to see him coming on and being a game changer for us. So really happy for him.
Do you know what? I don't think you're far out with the shout for him being in the England squad. He's a fantastic player and he gets goals. So, you know, if Harry Kane picks up an injury for Bayern at all, I know he's been struggling with injury lately, then maybe Danny Welbeck can come in and lead the line. So,
hey,
Tom, you laugh.
Joe, listen.
Yeah,
listen,
go on.
Joe. As a wise man once said, I don't deal in if, buts, or maybes. I deal in absolutes.
Tom, you laughed as I seriously mentioned Danny Welbeck on the plane. Do you reckon he could be in for a shout or not?
No, let's. I'll look on the other side of the fence on this one, lads. Like, as much as I love Danny Welbeck, and he's had plenty of opportunities in the England camp. He's someone that has definitely, I would say, he probably now knows his limits a fair bit. I think he's pushed himself a lot in his time. Like it didn't really work out with him at United. He went to Arsenal, and he was an absolute wind-up merchant when he knocked them out in the FA Cup, celebrated in front of the Stretford end, which I will absolutely love. I love when players are like that. I have no time for all this kind of like hands up in the air, unless you're club legends and you do it, fine. But if you're someone who contributed but not a lot, and you've done that, fair play to you, lad, because there was so much behind the scenes with Welbeck on that. And then it just didn't work out again at Arsenal. The injuries kept on coming, and then he went to Watford, and he just didn't seem to be in any of the 50 managers' plans when they were all there and coming and going. So I think he needed to go and think, right, I'm in the later stages of my career. I want a project. I want something there. And I think when we've said, right, this is our game, this is our vision, this is how we see you, you know, I think he really took it in his stride. You see what he does with Lamptey. You see what he does with Minter. You see what he does with everyone else in the attack. He orchestrates it. This is a guy that has played with some of the top managers and top players in this Premier League era over the last 2 decades. So he knows a few things, and he knows how coaches think at that top level and what he expects to see from us as we try and break the ceiling. Hi, Gus. As we go and move forward. So I think for us, look, I love Danny Welbeck. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see him in an England shirt again. Realistically, I think he could do with those 2 weeks off and just relaxing, recharge his batteries, because, and I don't like saying this out loud, saying this a lot out loud anyway, but the club foot was more important than international football.
Yeah, fair enough. Tom, your pettiness towards Gus then has earned you so many brownie points for me. I love that. I think we've broken that ceiling a million times over, don't you think? So, yeah. Let's see what the chat is saying, because I've neglected the chat and I'm very sorry. Tom's much better at managing the chat than I am. Michael says the Newcastle fans were booing him when they should have booed Gordon for missing the cup final. Absolutely. That's regarding Jan-Paul van Hecke for being punched in the side of the head. Tom, you've got a fan in the chat saying, glad Tom's on the pod. Used to watch him on his channel, which was Teams Like Brighton. Very reasonable person. And you was very reasonable with your views on Danny Welbeck. So there you go. You've got a fan. Michael says, Jack's the man. We do have a better utility player. Sorry, do we have a better utility player? Superb in midfield. Joanna saying, one of our own. Even the commentators were giving him lots of praise. Tom wanted me to do this. I mean, our host Tom wanted me to do this. Let's talk at length, Curtis, about Jack bloody Hinshelwood. Had his issues with injuries. He's come back in, scored against Southampton. He's incredible. What have we done in that academy? What a boy. Written in the stars, really. You know, Brighton through and through. Tell us about Jack Hinshelwood.
Well, he's just fantastic. Truly fantastic. Sorry, I'm so rude. My phone is not on. He's a really great player. He's got a great head on his shoulders too. He just seems really intelligent, knows what he wants. He's got just such a bright future. We're so lucky to have a player of that sort of caliber. And I'm just so excited to see what we get from him. You know, he's still so young. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting how young he is still. So yeah, look forward to seeing what more we get out of him.
Yeah, I mean, utility player we lost in Pascal Gross at the end or at the start of this season, Adam. But we've gained one back. I say gained one back. We had him last season, but I think you can probably look at Jack Hinshelwood as maybe the Pascal Gross replacement. I put in quotation marks. Do you think he could, live up to those expectations and maybe exceed those expectations with his high ceiling?
Definitely think so. I think certainly utility side of things, definitely, because you look, he can play either side of in the fullback role there and has done that job very well previously. He's slotting in very well in that midfield role, especially given the players he's sort of keeping out. He's trying to contend with Gomez and Iari as well, and now Weefer's back. You've got Weefer back involved in that picture as well. So there's a lot of very talented players in that midfield. But I think he's got an eye for goal. I know he's had a couple of efforts in the game today that didn't weren't quite up to his usual standards, but he's always there or thereabouts, and he certainly knows how to finish the ball when it does come to him. And I think as well, for someone of his height, the headers he pulls off. I mean, I think it was last season maybe that header he scored where he's one of the smallest players on the pitch and he's leaped like a salmon and shot it straight in the net there, and you're sort of like, how has he done that? He's just hung in the air beautifully and tucked it away. So I certainly think he can. I mean, whether he can master the Cruyff turn as well as Gross, remains to be seen, but certainly something he can work on. He's young, he's got plenty of years ahead of him, and he's one that's involved in the England setup already. So he's another one that I think if he can keep going as he is, he could certainly force his way into the England reckoning. Although I guess given his utility, he would offer a good versatile option in that England squad to cover in a few positions, not just the one.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's maybe somewhere that England have struggled with it is his utility and definitely fullbacks. I know we're seeing quite a few promising fullbacks come through at the moment, but I think Jack Hinshelwood is very much in the conversation around the England camp because he's playing for the under 21s and doing really well for them. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a Jack Hinshelwood in England call up in the next season or so. But I think with him, we maybe need to keep our feet on the ground a little bit, but he's certainly showing massive promising signs. There was a report, Tom, that at the end of the game, Jack Hinshelwood was struggling a little bit with his guts, not the bottom end, the throwing up end, because he had run himself into the ground. And he's a player that's going to do that, isn't he? He's going to work so hard for the team that he's going to just ruin himself physically. There was one block that he did, which was heroic. He's definitely a man that's going to pat the badge on the chest and fight for every ball, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that's probably credit to his dad and what he was like in an Albion shirt and during his professional career, and that's just something that that you just get when you're brought up in a football loving family, not just a football loving family, a football professional playing family as well. So he's definitely had someone there throughout that time up until where he is now, all that thing, all that stuff you don't see as fans behind the scenes. And he's had him around his shoulder, and his granddad was a legend as well. And you just say Hinshelwood, and even Palace fans have got fond memories of that family. So they know football and they know the mental side, and I think they've learned a lot of lessons, and they've passed it over through generations, and that speaks volumes. And the fact that we had Adam Hinshelwood, who was a very good League One defender in his day, and now he's passed on whatever he's learned, and now we've got Jack Hinshelwood, who is a decent midfielder in the Premier League, and that's a fair few big hurdles jumped. Probably goes back home on Christmas break and goes to his dad and says, "Yeah, I'm better than you now, Dad." So he's probably got those humble brags in the family, thinking like, "Yeah, I'm the best in this family's ever had," kind of thing. So, again, I think that's just credit to the mentality he's got, the maturity that he's got as a teenager. I think that says volumes. And again, that's just having his feet firmly on the ground. He knows how to deliver. And when he got called up, he didn't look out of place, did he? We were struggling with injuries and everything else, and trying to have a makeshift midfield. We lost Caicedo and McAllister. I know we've said that so many times last season, but that's the picture of what it was like for him when he walked into that team. And then he had to be playing right back and left back, and Lord knows whatever any other position that had to be filled, he was called up on it. So I do understand the concept of him being a utility player in the same way that Pascal Gross was. He's very much a very different midfielder to Gross in that midfield, but I think that's something that we have lacked in the last season or two. And he's stepping up. He's showing what he's all about, and he's even dictating to Diego Gomez and Carlos Baleba on what they need to do. And I think that's also credit to what the likes of James Milner and Pascal Gross have done behind the scenes, and even Adam Lallana, who's no longer with us as well. So he's a quick thinker, he's a quick learner, and the only way for him is up. And I do honestly think he's got a chance of being definitely in the England setup and the England conversation. And probably someone that will probably give Tuchel a headache in the next year or so.
Yeah, certainly hope so. Yeah.
We must also talk about Adam Webster.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Curtis, I was going to ask the question of you need to pick one Albion player from today's game, good or bad reasons to talk about. I guess you want to talk about Adam Webster. So have the floor, my friend.
Just the floor.
This is the floor.
Okay. I mean, he's been just fantastic for such a long time now. It's kind of mad. Like there was one point where it sort of felt like he maybe wasn't quite right for the team anymore, and he was lost favour with the fan base and whatnot. But it just shows how fickle we can be sometimes, because since Dunk's been out, he's been a bloody brick wall. He's been excellent. And I can't say enough good words to describe how well he has been for us. We need to put more respect on that man's name.
100%. Adam, when Lewis Dunk's fit, does he walk back in for Adam Webster, or does Adam Webster keep his place?
I think it's another headache for Hertzler, really. I think obviously he'd want to bring Dunk back in as the skipper and the leader, but I think we've all seen, Dunk hasn't quite been 100% this season. He's picked up a few injuries. He's starting to pick up a few more injuries, but that's sort of expected as you get older. But Webster's just come out of nowhere, really. As you say, he wasn't really in the reckoning with previous managers. Obviously, he had Igor, who was obviously ahead of him before his injury, and he's just walked back in and shown exactly why we paid all that money for him. He's a really good ball playing centre half. Looks like he's been watching Dunk in training and started pinging crossfield balls and filling in for him in that sense as well. So he's been terrific. I mean, I think in the Bournemouth game there was 3 or 4 occasions I counted, where he made really vital blocks that could have led to, potential goals, and he just threw himself right in front of it again, very Dunk-like. And I think Dunk is not guaranteed to be straight back in it the way he's playing. I just think it would be mad of Hertzler to break up that partnership, especially when we won 5 on the bounce now. It's really hard to sort of break up that partnership that him and Van Hecker have established.
Yeah, definitely. Tom, where do you sit on the Dunk conversation? Do you think Webster keeps his place, or does the skipper come back in?
It's gonna be a headache for Hertzler, isn't it? We're talking about someone who has been our captain, who's been one of our own for so many years, who always seems to deliver. And this season it hasn't really been his season, has it? He's definitely played below the par that we all know he sets himself, and we can see it as well. He's been frustrating a couple of times, and the man who used to always kind of like bail out some of his teammates whenever they make a mistake, and he's made a few mistakes of his own, and no one's been able to bail him out because he's always seems willingly be the last hurdle, be that last man to keep steady the ship. But that's the role that Dunk's taken up, and that's the risk you take. And things just hasn't seemed to have gone his way, and this injury just adds a bit more frustration to him. He is the club captain, so on paper you would think, well, he's got to come back. He's our captain. That's it. But then you go and see what we've been doing since he's been injured and been a doubt. Back-to-back wins against Chelsea. We've spanked Southampton at Southampton, beaten Bournemouth against the run of play. Let's be honest. We definitely didn't deserve it on what you see on how we played, and in comparison how Bournemouth played as well. And today as well, we beat Newcastle at their own turf. That's not an easy job, and we managed that well, and we've done that most of the time without Lewis Dunk, and that's something I think that will really grind his gears a little bit. He'll be buzzing for the club. He'll be buzzing for the team overall. But deep down, as a professional footballer, he'll know he's got a real big mountain to climb. And I'm sorry, I'm sad to say, I don't like to say it, but he's on the wrong side of 30 at the moment. He probably needs to think about changing his game a little. He's a fairly pacey defender in the past, and I think he's relied on that up until now. And I think now he's caught himself out a few times now, and I think he just needs to play a little bit smarter defensively. And I think that's where the recruitment was when we tried to bring in Hummels in, because I think that was something that he needed as a guidance, kind of like say, you can play just as well and prolong that career for another 2-3 years. This is how you do it, and learn from him, and then hopefully that'll work out well. But sadly, it's not meant to be, and that's just the nature of the game. I think I'll be very surprised if Dunk comes in straight away. And I have to say as well on the podcast, while I've got the opportunity, I am one of those people that has the biggest slice of humble pie on Adam Webster. And I would like to make this public apology to him, because I was one of those people that thought in the summer he's got to go. I'll drive him to his next club. No, I am so sorry for saying that, because he's changed me around, and that's not an easy thing for me to say. And brothers, if you remember me on Teams Like Brian podcasts, like there have been a couple of times where I've been quite critical of Webdini. But yeah, he's been quality, and he's definitely stepped up when the team needed him to. And you've got to admire the mentality on that.
Yeah, 100%. I just to make yourself feel better, I don't think you're the only one who was harsh on Adam Webster. I think there's multiple moments where being harsh on Adam Webster has been valid. But it's all about the reaction in football. How do you recover from your setbacks? And he's recovered impeccably well. One thing as well we talk about a lot on this podcast is who is the next captain. I'm not saying Adam Webster is the next captain, because he's also not aging terribly, but he's not young. I want to point out the moment of him having his arm around Tarek Lamptey in the tunnel after the game. Tarek feeling that he definitely did make the job harder for his teammates, but Webby's got his arm around him saying, Tarek, it's absolutely fine. We're a team and we won for you. It's not about those individual mistakes. It's about how you bounce back as a team. And that's why togetherness is so important. So I guess that's a nice full circle moment in respecting the manager's message to the players and showing that togetherness in a moment where Tarek was probably feeling a little bit sorry for himself. But Adam, same question to you that I asked Curtis. If you could pick one player from today's game for good or bad reasons, you can't pick Adam Webster, who would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. Oh, now you put me on the spot. I would probably say, I think Ruta for me, he was, again involved. Maybe not directly involved in any of the goals, but he sort of established himself really as a starter now. It's hard to find room for all our attacking players now. You think Welbeck's obviously struggling to start because of how well Pedro's doing, but Ruta has contributed to that factor as well because he's obviously nailed down that number sort of 10 role there and is a real warrior in there as well. He's not just doing the attacking side of the game. He's willing to get stuck into tackles, willing to track back, but he's also finding space where he can, creating goals, scoring goals. And, I think a lot of people were critical of why we were spending 40 million on a player that hadn't exactly, shone and scored a lot of goals in the Championship. But we're starting to see now why, again, the recruitment team have nailed it. He's, a real talent and, is really young as well still. So he's still got plenty of years ahead of him. So he's another one that looks to be another gem that we've discovered in a way.
Yeah, I'm definitely a advocate for Jorginho Rutter Love. I've spoken so much about his attitude and the smile that radiates through the squad when he's in a good mood, which seems to be all the time. I'm not sure what happy pills he's taking, but I want some.
I think it's just booster packs of Pokemon cards.
I was about to say the exact same thing.
Maybe that's the secret. We all need to open one packet of Pokemon cards a day just to be as happy as Jorginho. And I think Tony Blue needs to send another empty checkbook to Leeds and ask them to put another figure on it because, yeah, he's worth his weight in gold. Tom, same question to you. If you could pick someone from today's game, good or bad, you can't pick Webster, you can't pick Rutter, who would it be?
The future captain for Brighton Hove Albion, Jean-Paul Van Hecker. Again, it's just another solid performance from him. And he had a very busy shift. He had, let's see, Isak, Gordon, Wilson, Barnes, all within his vicinity. And then we haven't even touched on the midfield of Tonali, of Joe Linton, of Bruno. He's been such a force to be reckoned with. For someone who told De Zerbi, get stuffed, I don't want to go out on loan. I want to fight for my place in the first team. Did he get any minutes that time? Not particularly, but when he got called up on, he looked really comfortable. And then when he got his chance, he looked even better. And, we sing that he's better than Cannavaro for a reason, because he's a fantastic manager of the game. And, he's learning from Joel Veltman in terms of the dark arts as well, shall we say. You need that little bit. And now we've just got I think now it's just the time to just say to him, okay, you're getting the armband. I think personally, if he's not the next captain for Brighton Hove Albion, we've seriously missed a trick there, because I think he's a fantastic leader as well. He's so young, and he's knocking on the door for leading Netherlands as well on the international stage as well. So, and the fact that he managed Gordon so well to the point that Gordon, again, probably one of the greatest head losses going. And, we had a strong contender in Cunha yesterday. Just goes to show, like, he is such a force to be reckoned with. Someone at the pub today was saying to me about how he's the next Yap Stam, which I think is that's a bold take to have. But you can see why, because he is a force to be reckoned with. He's utterly frustrating. He's fantastic on the ball. He's as close to the complete defender we have had for a very, very long time, and I'm all for it. And today proved that as well. Fantastic management from him, and leading in the back and just trying to dictate play as much as he possibly can from the defensive line.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. He is incredible, and we're very lucky to have him. I just hope that our neighbours Chelsea don't look over their shoulders and go, "We need another defender. Let's go and spend 120 million pounds on him," because nobody wants to see that. The player I'm going to pick, guys, is another Dutchman, our flying Dutchman in goal, Bart Verbruggen. I think there were the multiple moments where you wanted your goalkeeper to command his area, and I think he done it excellently, especially towards the end of the game where he sort of leapt up and his arms sort of prevailed over everybody else, and he clinged onto that ball. So I thank goodness for that. We can all relax now. I think he's been excellent. He's certainly had his moments where there's been errors that have led to goals, and there's been question marks around him, but I don't think anyone can look away from the fact that he is an excellent young goalkeeper who is going to make these mistakes, going to learn these harsh lessons very quickly, and is going to be probably, and again, making a bold claim here, but probably going to be one of the best goalkeepers in world football. So yeah, that's what I feel, how nicely I feel towards Bart Verbruggen. But again, it's just, can we keep hold of him for that long? I know that some teams
Bayern are interested in him, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. And Neuer's not getting any younger, is he? So yeah, that could be the move. But I hope he remains. Brighton have Albion's
Also,
number
a
one.
very, very quick shout out to Gruder today. I thought he had a really good little cameo too.
Yeah. Joanna in the chat said that she thought Gruder looked really good when he came on. I think he was linking up play quite nicely. Had moments where you probably expect him to shoot, but I think it's a lack of confidence of maybe not playing and getting enough minutes, being a bit rusty. Rodders said or picked out Minte as the player he wanted to mention for a bad reason of giving the penalty away. That was crazy. I mean, the thing for me is you can't. Yeah, it was a silly challenge, very clumsy. But the defensive work Yankuba Minter does and Karim Matoma on the wings for the last 5 games has been excellent. So I don't think you can take away that desire to defend. But yeah, stupid, clumsy tackle. And Michael says, got to be Jack for me, Jack Hinshelwood. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. We've already said what we need to say on Jack Hinshelwood. Before we sign off for this week's show, I say this week's show, we haven't been on for about a month, so I do apologise again. Let's look ahead to Fulham. They are our bogey team. Curtis, how are you feeling ahead of Fulham in the Premier League?
Good question, Joseph. I think I'm feeling confident in the sense of just our form recently. But in regards to Fulham, that just goes out of the window. Form. So I hope that we can turn up and do a job. That would be excellent. That would just earmark this form for me. If we can get past our bogey teams. But I have to be confident going into it because I'd rather be confident than not. So I think we could do something, but we really have to be better than we were before because that last performance against Fulham was atrocious, absolutely atrocious.
I hate Craven Cottage in the Premier League. Absolutely hate it. We never play well there. I'm going to push you for a score prediction, Curtis. What are you feeling?
Have to.
Yeah.
2-1 win to us.
We'll take it. Joanna says, thanks for a great show, guys. I have to go now. Have a good week, Joanna, and we'll see you on the next one. Adam, how are you feeling ahead of Fulham at home? I just muted myself halfway through that. That's stupid. How are you feeling ahead of Fulham?
Yeah, no, I think pretty confident. You know, given the recent form, you know, the recent revival. Really, you know, 5 wins in a row. You've got to feel confident. I mean, there's plenty of confidence among the squad. Loads of players in form, especially as I say that sort of attacking 4, and you know Welbeck that's interchanging in. You know, we seem to be getting players back as well. It seems to be sort of we seem to be sort of picking up at the right sort of time of the season and finding our form. And I think at home we're starting to sort of win more games, make it a bit more of a fortress, which is what we've been lacking for a real long time. So, I think I'd probably stick with Curtis's prediction of 2-1. That would, I think we'll just edge it, but I'd say there's one goal in it, so I'd say 2-1 as well to us.
Fair enough. I think I found the reason for our poor home form, people, by the way. And I want to say it on the podcast and make it public. So I haven't been to the last two games against Chelsea and against Bournemouth, and we won. I also didn't go to the Man United game, and we won that. I also didn't go to the Manchester City game, and we won that. So I think I am the reason. I am very sorry. Child comes first and all that. So I think I should stay away from the Amex. But I am going on Saturday.
Can you make yourself busy at the end of March?
I can try. I'm sure I will be. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm going on Saturday, so I'm not holding out much hope. Tom, what are you feeling? Can we break off Fulham hoodoo?
I think we're in the best position in terms of recent form and how we're doing at the moment with our team. There's a really good chemistry in there. There's the fluidity's brilliant, and just the almost like the telepathy between them all on what's needed and the positions they need to be in off the ball. It's really good, and I think that's also been the flaw of ours in the reverse fixture at Craven Cottage. I think we've come leaps and bounds since then. Equally, Fulham have also, they're on the good form at the moment. They won on penalties in the FA Cup tonight against United. So, but I mean, that just adds a little bit more spice in the FA Cup, to be honest with you. The holders are out, so they've got the taste for blood, and they want to send a message out, especially when they're going to face a team like us who are also still in the cup competition, and we could well face them if we progress after the quarterfinals and see them at Wembley. If I cannot stress that word, if I just do not want to tempt fate at all. But look, it's a tough one. You look at the table. We're 8th, they're 9th. There's a point separating us. Goal difference again 1, and the form is very, very similar as well. We've had 3 back-to-back successive wins in the league, and they've got 3 wins in their last five as well. So it's going to be a tough one, and we need to match up with this. If we want Europe through the league, we've got to win these, and it's a huge 6-pointer, because that all of a sudden goes from 1 point to 4 points, and that's a nice healthy margin that I quite like to see. And the potential to leapfrog Chelsea would be just so delicious. I say that with a bit of ambition there, because they're on 16 goal difference. So, but the potential to just breathe down their necks and kind of say, like, we want Europe again, and we're not going to go down with that fight. Makes the business end of the season all exciting, isn't it? 10 to go after Fulham, and there's so much to play for.
Yeah, exactly that. What about a prediction then, Tom?
You're pushing me. You're pushing me.
I am.
I'm feeling very confident about this, and I'm going to go bold and say we're going to get clean sheet 2-0 Brighton.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm not as confident as I say, because I am intending, so I apologise in advance. But I vowed this season to always go with my heart with the prediction. So let's go for a edgy 1-0 win in the last few minutes, because who doesn't like a last-minute goal? Jason in the chat says, I truly believe, we shouldn't be scared of anyone, but I do think we're on a tightrope at the moment in regards of win and lose. It's all about our players starting to be a bit arrogant in terms of confidence. I think I agree with you in terms of the tightrope between win and lose, because I think you're only seconds away from an individual mistake that we give up a goal and then heads would drop. But I'm not sure about the arrogance. I think Kurtzler has maybe installed a lot of I don't want to say this word because I feel it's cursed after Haaland said it, but a little bit of like humility in the squad, a bit of humbleness. So I'm not sure. I go with the arrogant comment, but it could happen. But I think we'll keep our feet on the ground. As Tom says, we've got a very, very interesting business end of the season to come, and we're going to be there for it. I guess that rounds off this week's episode of the Albion Obsessed podcast. We won't leave it as long next time, I hope. And we will get these lovely gentlemen on again, hopefully towards the end of the season. So if you want to stay up to date with all things Albion Obsessed, you can find us on Blue Sky at albionobsessed.bluesky.social. I think that's how it's done. Still not come to grips with it yet. And we're also on Instagram at Albion Obsessed. And we're on Facebook. But we've binned off that nasty place called X. So there you go. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Albion Obsessed content as we bring it to you. And until next time, wherever you may be, whenever you may be, we will see you very soon. Take care.